Hi, welcome to the greatest YouTube channel on the planet, Mr. Howes Bores You. Today I'm going to bore you about the history of America up until the French and Indian War. So sit back, relax, and hey, Angelina and Andrew, I've learned your name, so you're welcome. All right. Prior to the European arrival, North America was a series of successful Native American tribes living and prospering, creating art, science, architecture, governments. They were not at peace with each other in that they did try to kill each other to take each other's stuff. So don't think it was all just good news there, but they were thriving and had plenty of food. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic Ocean, Spain, Britain, and France, not so much. So they decided to expand their economies using a system called mercantilism. Mercantilism is where the mother country goes and conquers other countries, shoot them in the face, take their stuff, basically. So first up is Spain. They send this guy, Christopher Columbus. I know he looks like George Washington here, but bear with me. Columbus comes over. He enslaves, tortures, and homicides the Taino tribes. And it's not critical race theory. He gets thrown in jail by his own people for it. But ultimately, it leads to Spain thriving in North America and creating all these colonies. Now, how did Spain conquer all these Native American tribes when there were so many people of the Native Americans, so few people from Spain? Were they smarter? Were they stronger? Were they braver? No, they gave them smallpox. Yes, a disease that Native Americans had no resistance to, and they dropped like flies. Next up, Britain wanted to get a piece of this. So they start colonizing on the Atlantic coast, and they settle in Jamestown. Jamestown's ready to fail up until they discover this amazing crop. Well, basically, they steal some of it from the Native Americans, but still. It's tobacco. The things we tell you to stay away from is the thing that created the nation that you live in today. You're welcome. So the success of this tobacco crop allowed the English to start thriving in the South, but they also needed people to work on these giant farms called plantations. So they could have paid people to do it, but instead they chose to buy people. Yes, slavery, the thing that causes the Civil War, not states' rights. I'm looking at you, Mississippi and Alabama. It was slavery. So the classic triangle trade where slaves were sent to Americas, they produced sugar, tobacco, and cotton to Europe, and then textiles, rum to get more slaves. Terrible, awful, but it did lead to the prosperous colonies you see today. So how did we take all this land from the Native Americans? You guessed it, more smallpox. You're welcome. So meanwhile, over in France, we have them sending their people over. Now, France was working in a little bit differently. They're the area in blue, if you can't read. And they were basically trapping furs. In particular, they were trapping beaver to make, no lie, fancy hats for people to wear. Yes, the Air Force Ones of the 18th century. So France begins these settlements here, and as you can see, the British colonies are on the other side, and they're starting to push towards each other, and we wind up into a little squabble over the Ohio River Valley. So that is all the history you need to know. So thank you for attending the world's greatest YouTube channel. Drive safely, tell your friends, and stay in school.